The Brothers' Son is an 8-part series on Netflix that stars Michelle Yeoh, and this show is absolutely amazing. Let me tell you why. Here are my thoughts. Hi, my name is Diamond, aka Lady Leo. I am a lover of all things nail polish, movies, TV shows, all sorts of things. My hope is that you come to my channel, find something that you love, and hit the subscribe button because I would love to have you. So, as I mentioned, this is an 8-episode first season, hopefully. It stars Michelle Yeoh, Justin Chien, and Sam Song Lee. I'm looking at my notes just to make sure. So I would say those are like the main characters. There are a few other side characters as well, but those are the main characters, and I'm sure you'll probably know who Michelle Yeoh is more than anybody else. Well, sorry, let me not make that assumption. I know who Michelle Yeoh is. I didn't know who the other actors were, but I do now. So this is your spoiler warning. If you have not seen this show and you don't want to be spoiled, you have been warned. All right. Let's get into it, and I absolutely loved this show. So first off, I think I only saw a trailer for the show like a week before it actually debuted, and it was just through scrolling through Netflix. I love that they have this section of like coming soon, and so I kind of hovered over it, and then I let the trailer play, and I was very, very intrigued. I really liked the trailer. I love Michelle Yeoh, so I was like, okay, let me check it out. So this show dropped on January 5th, so if you haven't checked it out, you definitely should. It's a pretty easy binge. You can binge it in a weekend. It's 8 episodes. I'd say it's a mix of like comedy, maybe dark comedy. There's a great action in this show and a lot of character driven work, and I love the combination of those different tones because I think the show plays really well because you have some characters that are very serious, some that are a little bit more funny, and I think it melds all those things just really, really well. We follow Charles, who is played by Justin Chien. He is the oldest son. Essentially, you have Michelle Yeoh, who is Mama Son. I don't know if they ever say what her first name is. I think it starts with an E. Maybe they said it once. Maybe it's Eileen or something like that. But she is Mama Son, and then she has 2 sons. She has her oldest son, Charles, who lives in Taiwan. He lives in Taiwan. Sorry, I was thinking about the capital, Taipei, but sorry, he does live in Taipei. It doesn't matter. He lives in Taipei, Taiwan. And then she has a youngest son, which is, oh my God, what's the youngest son's name? You have Bruce. So you have her oldest son, Charles, and then you have Bruce. Essentially, you have Michelle Yeoh, and so you basically have Mama Son and Bruce doesn't know anything about their family business, which they're part of the Jade Dragons, which is a triad of criminal organizations in Taiwan. They're one of the big 3. And he doesn't know anything about that because he's been raised in LA away from all of that. Whereas Charles, the oldest son, is in Taiwan. He is knee deep in all of that. And he is basically his father's enforcer, executioner, all that jazz. But Charles is and has to be my favorite character. You know, we start the show with Charles in Taiwan, and something that will continue throughout the show is like his love of baking. And that is like one simple thing that he has, which has nothing to do with the violence of his life, which is just normalized for him. But he just really loves to bake. And I love that about Charles because his story is actually quite heartbreaking once you get into the show. Like a lot of the moments where I was crying and a lot of the moments where I was definitely crying and tearing up, those all came from Charles. Well, most of them came from Charles because of how tragic his whole situation is. And he was raised completely polar opposite from his brother Bruce, who is not physically strong in the same way that Charles is. He doesn't have those scars because he hasn't been raised to be a fighter, to be a warrior like Charles had. So he's had a completely different life than Charles has had. But like getting to see their story develop was really, really beautiful. Like the relationship between brothers, and even though they didn't know each other that long, like their bond is cemented by the end of the show, which is just really, really fantastic. Because like I said, Charles is my favorite character, but his story is like the most heart-wrenching. And the actor Justin Chien, sorry, the actor who plays him, Justin Chien, is perfect. He is amazing. He plays the action really well. And then there's all these quiet moments with Charles, which sometimes it's just like he doesn't even have to say anything. It's just his facial expressions. And he does such a great job emoting with physical gestures without having to say anything because his character is really raised in a different way. So I think emotions, I can't know this for sure because he never has a discussion about how his father treats emotions, but I would feel like he wouldn't be allowed to express his emotions, which is why he has this stoicness to him. But as time goes on, he softens, which is really nice to see. And then you have Michelle Yeoh. So, like I said, she is Mama Sun. She's been raising Bruce on her own for, I think she's been gone from Taiwan for like 15 years. And, the funny thing about the show is because Michelle Yeoh was in it, I'm like, okay, so she's going to do some action scenes. It's going to happen. And I kept waiting. And I'm just like, okay, this is going to be it. There's like a couple moments where I thought to myself, oh, she's going to throw down. It never happens though, because I realized as the show went on, it just really wasn't her character. Her character would not solve an issue with violence. She would solve an issue with diplomacy, with having a conversation and talking to people. So you're not going to see any action scenes from Michelle Yeoh in this movie because, again, like I said, it is just not her character. Her character is not a fighter, at least not the way she's portrayed. Like, I don't know if that will change in the second season, if we get a second season. But in this first season, she doesn't do any fighting, which I think is kind of nice because I love Michelle Yeoh, but I like her as an actress, not just for her physical ability to do roles, but I just like her generally as an actress too because she has a lot of presence as well. And I really loved her character too, like the main three. So her, Charles, and Bruce, I was super invested in their family the entire time. And you know what I love about Michelle Yeoh's character in Mama Sun? She starts off as, from my vantage point, being a very specific kind of character, a very specific kind of character, like very caring mother who just wants to protect her youngest son from this kind of violent environment that she's fostered, that her family has fostered. And she comes off as being very protective, demure, but very intelligent. And you actually see this duality in her towards the end where she actually wants to reign. Like, she wants to be the queen pin. She wants to be in charge of the family because she thinks she can do it right and do it better. And it's really nice to see that duality, right? Like, to tell your child as a parent, I want this, right? Like, I want this because it's what I have earned. It's what I worked for, which is what she tells Bruce when Bruce, there's kind of like a moment where he's just like, wouldn't it be nice to go back to the way things were? And she's like, no, essentially she's like, nah, I want what I have earned, what I worked for. I think she's just really mad that her son effed it all up. I kind of would be too. But it's just really nice to see a mother asserting herself in the sense of saying, yes, I am your mother, I love you, but I have other goals and dreams outside of just like being your mother, and I still want those things. You are an adult now, and it's time for me to pursue those dreams that I had for myself long before you came into the world, which is kind of like what I get out of like that whole paragraph. Sorry, that whole conversation that she was having with Bruce. And like I said, I really like that. I like hearing that from someone saying, and not just having her whole identity be like, I'm your mother and there's nothing else to me. And I really like that in the end, she gets what she wants. She gets to go back to Taiwan and be the queen pin. That's going to be interesting. Because the way that she kind of plays it off is that like Taiwan is very traditional and they may not take after a woman. So I guess if we get a second season, we will see how that goes. And then you have the last son, the youngest son, Bruce. I don't know how much of an age gap there is between him and Charles. I'm going to go out on a limb and say maybe like 5 to 6 years because I remember seeing a picture when Michelle Yeoh's doing like her makeup, and it looked like they were just like a few years apart. So we're going to go out on a limb and say he's a few years younger than his brother. He has a totally different vibe than either one of them. He's been raised in America, so maybe for people who are born in like Taiwan, you would say that he's been Americanized. I don't really know what that means because I was born and raised here all my life, so I don't have any other perspective to give anybody else. But so he's been raised in a very comfortable life, hasn't had to fear for his life, hasn't had to fight, and he is going to school, and then he just wants to be an improv actor. So he's using his mom's money for school to pay for that on the side. Like he didn't think he would get caught. But anyway, I really like Bruce because he adds a lot of like comical levity to the show, and the actor who plays him, which is Sam Song Lee, I think is just really great. He's really funny, and his dynamic with his mom and his brother, it works really well because tonally they're all just very different people, but they all play off of each other really well. So I really loved Bruce, and it's I think we would all be Bruce, right? Like if we had all been raised in America and like we have a long lost brother that we haven't talked to in 15 years that comes from another country, and he's like part of the mafia, and like all this crazy stuff starts happening here, I would be like, this is madness. And that's kind of how Sam is. That's not, excuse me. Well, Sam is his real name, but so that's why I love the character of Bruce. Like he adds a lot of the comedy for this movie. Michelle Yeoh does too. Like she's adding some of that dark comedy too. That being said, I would say the premise of the show is it's a little bit more of a complicated one. It's not like a one sentence and done kind of situation, because it's basically like the three major triads. So I guess, sorry, the triad. So there's three major crime families in Taiwan, of which Michelle Yeoh's family is part of the Jade Dragons. And there's this other group that they realize they're called the Boxers when they get to California, who's trying to take out the triad. So it's kind of a mix of talking about that as well as following the own son's family. And like I said, the show does a really good job mixing different tones and combining lots of different elements and layering them onto each other. And like I said, my favorite character is Charles, and all I want for Charles in the second season, which I just don't really think is going to happen, but I just want some calmness for Charles. I think he had a couple moments of that in this season, but then he went right back into all the other crazy shit that goes on in his life. I feel so many things for Charles. He's had such a very challenging upbringing, and I'm kind of interested with what he decides to do at the end of the season. There's a part of me that doesn't really believe he did that for himself so much as for his mom, but if it makes him happy and he wants to go down that route, I just want happiness for Charles. I want some happiness. I want some calm, some peace. If we can give that to Charles, can he go lay on a beach somewhere? He should relax. He needs to relax. What do hitmen do to relax? Well, he's not a hitman, but he needs to do some relaxation, some yoga, a massage, whatever Charles does to relax. Well, he bakes. I don't know, maybe baking. I mean, he loves to bake, so maybe baking is something that he finds to be relaxing. But he needs to do more of that because justice for Charles. Protect Charles at all costs. There's so many things that I loved about this show. Like I said, the show has really great action. I mean, it is well filmed, and it is filmed in a way where you can see everything. They have really great stunt work, and I can tell that the actor who plays Charles, Justin Chien, it looks like he's doing a lot of his own stunt work. He's very in shape, so it looks like he's doing a lot of his own stunt work. But I really love the character work. I love the relationship that forms between Bruce and Charles. And even though they have very, very different upbringings, I just love how close they become. And I love like some of the conversations that they have, especially at the end, where basically Bruce is like, what do you want? Like, brother, like, I'm here for you, I'm going to support you, but like, what do you want to do? I just think it's really beautiful to see that relationship between brothers, especially considering they've had very, very different lives, and Charles is a very closed off person, and he's just not used to having like physical affection in his life anymore at this point, so it's very hard for him to make that kind of like more commonplace and like natural. All in all, I had an actual blast with this show. I didn't really know what to expect going into it. I like that. I like, watching a trailer for a show, really liking it, and then like watching the first episode and being like, okay, I'm invested. And then just like binging the show because it's so awesome. I binged this in an entire weekend. So I personally really, really loved this show. I just had so much fun watching it. I thought it was really like thought provoking and heart wrenching, and I was invested, and the action was great. And I just hope and pray that Netflix gives this a second season because they have a tendency to axe shows that don't do, like, I don't know, Stranger Things numbers. First of all, Netflix, every show is not Stranger Things in terms of popularity. Like, most shows aren't Stranger Things. And I tend to be of the belief that every show deserves two seasons. If you haven't gained an audience in two seasons, fair. You had two chances. You had your freshman, you had your sophomore. So now you're good to go. Like, you don't get any more chances. But like, Netflix will just like axe a show after one season if it doesn't put up like Stranger Things numbers. At least that's what it seems like to me, because they axe really good shows that just maybe aren't that popular. But to be fair, like, Netflix also has a lot of shows that they run across their platform, maybe even more if you live in different countries, because I live in America, but I get recommended tons of shows from like K-dramas, just like lots of different types of Asian shows because of what I watch. So like, there's a lot of content on Netflix, maybe even a little too much. So it can be really hard for any show to gain a big audience unless it's really, really popular. But that doesn't mean that it's not good. So I don't know. This is my plea to Netflix to give The Brother's Son a second season. Because I like this show so much. So I would be devastated to hear that it was canceled after one season. But I guess we'll find out whenever Netflix announces if they're making a second season. But anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Well, that has been my time. Thank you so much for watching. Wait a minute, I just wanted to kind of give you a little forecast for the next month. If you don't care, you can click off, that's fine. But anyway, so the next month is going to be February. I filmed a few different things on this day, so you'll see me in this outfit and this hair for the few videos that I filmed. I don't know how many more main videos I'll be putting out in January because I put out quite a few. So I may put out like a nail video and that might be it. If not, I will be forecasting several videos for February, mainly Valentine's Day related. Not all of them, but some of them. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm going to be working on for the next month. But in the meantime, I always have some nail shorts that I will be dropping just to kind of fill the space if you're not into reviews. Anyway, that's it. Okay, bye.